As part of the process, hydrogen is stored from water molecules to make carbohydrates. When you eat, you reverse photosynthesis. Now, how you actually get the energy back out of the food is by breaking those molecules down. It's actually called respiration. So what happens is that you breathe in oxygen and then you rearrange everything, and in the process you breathe out carbon dioxide. So that's how you get the energy out. It's the same thing with fires. When a fire actually burns something, it actually releases carbon dioxide. So again, you're just reversing photosynthesis. As producers, we rely on plants to store the energy of the sun during photosynthesis and then pass this energy on along the food chains, one above ground and one below the ground. As you can see, I'm suggesting that we determine our own destiny by how we manage plants and how well we let them photosynthesize. Rainfall is not the only determinant of plant growth. This diagram highlights how not letting the top half of plants grow reduces the root volume under the ground. Part of adapting to climate change is having grasses with larger root volumes so that they have access to more moisture and nutrients. Also, plants with deeper roots grow for longer. Now, the plant on the left has been grazed 6 times at the 1 leaf stage. The middle plant has been grazed 3 times at the 2 leaf stage. The one on the right was grazed twice at the 3 leaf stage. Putting the importance of resilience aside for a second, the extra grass growth from resting after rain is reason enough for resting your pastures. Also, more soil carbon for your tanning. For those of you interested in soil carbon is built more by the roots than the above ground component. And what I'm really saying is the litter that drops on the ground, it does get incorporated in the soil, but it's very vulnerable because the moisture gets it, the oxygen gets it, and that's how the organic matter gets turned back into carbon dioxide. Now for the soil aspect of resilience. Tony's explained that when the plants grow, they feed the life in the soil. This life restructures the soil and releases nutrients from organic matter. These little guys in the soil also supply growth promotants to plants. The next 2 images are extreme cases to make a point. They highlight that with soil, it is critical that something is growing in it to make it functional and more resilient. These images will highlight the linkage in the big picture that I mentioned earlier should be explained. This is just a saltbush plant that was growing on some very degraded country down to Lauder. It was actually taken 12 months after the seedling was put in. Here we have part of the landscape starting to function and the rest is still doing nothing. The soil component of resilience had failed years ago. This is long-term degraded country we're looking at the moment. This is planting the carbon cycle where it can't establish naturally from seed. This is the same area 12 months later. In this image, you can see the carbon cycle is expanding. In other words, the landscape is becoming more resilient. It was the carbon flows introduced by the planted saltbush that improved the soil. When the soil improved, grass was able to germinate. Using this image to understand pasture management, plants must be allowed to grow to maintain their own health and the health of the soil. All this happened over a 2-year period when rainfall was well below average, as you know. This outcome, under adverse conditions, highlights that climate change does not have to destroy your business or your landscape. This is actually the same site a couple of months after the previous photo. It was taken after that terrible day, I think it was in September from memory, the one that did all the damage to the wheat crops. It just absolutely howled. When you look at the bare bits, you can even see the scalloping in the soil. This is carbon loss in the bare areas. But what I want you to notice is, oops, sorry. This area here, I have got other photos, but I didn't want too many photos. The whole landscape was held together. So this is really an image that explains what it's all about. Water holding capacity of soil is another reflection of resilience. Holding capacity is increased with the build-up of humus, which is a carbon compound. Humus results from the breakdown of organic matter by microbes that live in the soil. Plants have to be allowed to grow to supply root material before you'll get your humus. The real reason humus increases water holding capacity is because it is smaller than clay particles. Another debate where size is everything. Sand particles are larger than clay particles, which is why sand has a lower water holding capacity. Water holding capacity comes down to the total surface area of the granules in a given volume. The total surface area of clay in a given volume is greater than sand. This is why clay is sometimes added to sand in South Australia to improve their farming systems. As an aside, the reason grasses respond quicker in sand is because the particles hold water less aggressively. The beauty of sand with small falls is that there is better infiltration. The water moves further down and away from the surface evaporation. Finally, sand will release a larger percentage of the water present to plants. Next, carbon has what I refer to as a structural role. This is plants being physically present in the paddock, above and below ground. Remember, grass is 45% carbon, so it won't be there if you don't allow it to be constructed. These three factors increase water use efficiency. Water use efficiency is part of the resilience story. The first is the Wick Effect. Water goes down beside roots. This is during rain, I mean. The deeper the roots, the further the water goes down. If plants are not allowed to grow after rain, the roots are not as deep. What I want you to concentrate on in this photo, it was actually taken 2 days after rainfall in the trap rock country actually. If you look here, you'll notice how dry it is, but in this whole area where we've got the plants, you'll notice that the moisture's gone in and it's still there. So this is what I mean by the Wick Effect. It's actually plants acting as wicks to take the water in.